Good afternoon, all. I'm Tony Tiyu, founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa, and welcome to our WiBA session. And we're going to have a very interesting topic, which is the off-grid solar and transformative business model. Has the revolution started? So we have two speakers that are going to be sharing with you their experience, their feedback, and we're going to be taking some questions. So I believe we have a very good attendance. So let me go on to the next slide. First of all, I want to remind you the house rules, right? So you all have your camera turned off, except mine, and then your microphone as well. And then at the end of the webinar, you're going to be able to ask some questions on the chat that I will pick up. I will also be able to address that to the speakers, whoever you want to address the question to, and they will respond to that. And I might as well participate. Last but not the least, feel free to send us your feedback and do enjoy yourself. So I'm just want to be checking because I only said that I only want the speakers and myself to be speaking. So our mic should be turned on, but not the only one, not the other guys. So I believe I have Thomas on the line. Thomas, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I can hear you, Tony.
Okay, that's excellent. So I believe Nate, he might have some issue with his phone, but he's going to be joining in a second. So what we're going to do, Thomas, I will make a quick start and then I'll pass it on to you. And by then, I'm sure Nate will have joined us. Is that okay?
Oh, perfect.
Okay, that's great. So moving on swiftly. So what's going to be the content of today? So we'll be talking about the Renewables in Africa, a very brief introduction about our company, then moving on to the topic. The speakers will take over. We're going to have some Q&A sessions and some conclusions. So that's the content we're going to have today. And what I thought is actually very important for me to always remind or share with you what actually drives me. So what took me to that journey. So I attended a conference that was back in 2008. And then the topic was electrification of Africa. And the picture on your left, that's what I saw. And it was the first time I realized how, I would say, bad the situation was in terms of electrification. And then I decided that I wanted to contribute to make sure that I can turn it from the left to the right, have a continent that is well electrified. So that's what is has been driving me. So if I one second, up, moving on to the next slide. That's it. Okay. And if I can go to the next slide, sorry. Yes. So what is our mission? Simply to bring back power to Africa. So that's where we created Renewables in Africa. And it's a clean energy engineering consultancy. So we provide different services, direct investment opportunity to Africa, market insights, technical advice. And you can see our web platform that is on your right-hand side. So we are also a media platform, and we raising awareness about the industry and spreading what we call the green gospel. And yes, and a couple of our publications that you can find online. You have the book that we released 2 years ago, and early this year we released the solar tracker, which both are available from our line. Now, if I introduce the topic of today, which is off-grid, so I can see people are joining, so we're gonna admit them. So the off-grid markets, what the statistics have been telling us is that we have still more than 1 billion people across the world that don't have access to electricity. That's obviously concerning. And more than half of them are based into the African continent, and they need light. So they need us to do something to make sure that we can provide universal access. And we have an increasing number of off-grid technology and business models that are emerging. And today, I'm sure you're going to be hearing from one of the speakers, and he's going to take you through one of those business models that seems to be successful. And cumulatively, the level of sale, it's over 130 million devices, reaching almost 4 billion since 2010. And there is an increasing number of investors who are looking at the sector. And if we're looking at the money that has been raised over the past 2 years, so that's almost $500 million, and over $500 million. And B-Box, I guess it's one of the main player into the sector. So, and they recently raised some money, and I'm sure Thomas will be sharing some news about that as well for us. And then with regard to renewables in Africa, very quickly, just to say that we're also very much involved into the off-grid sector. So Jason, who is the gentleman that you can see on the picture over there on your right, with my co-founder, we founded a company that is called Comparisol, which is nothing but mobile platform that increases the consumer access and understanding of energy options across sub-Saharan Africa. So we've been working on it for the last 18 months, and we're currently running a pilot that will launch on the 31st of August with one of the cooperative in Rwanda. And so far, the results are looking very interesting. So if there are people that want to know more about that, feel free to get in touch with us. Now, I'm going to be moving to the speakers, and we're going to have two fantastic speakers. And Thomas is already on the line, and Nate will be joining in a couple of minutes. So Thomas is at this point that I'm going to pass on the mic to you, and hopefully you can take us through your presentation. So would you want me to stop sharing, and you can move on with you? So let me just remove the camera first, and I'll stop sharing, and I can pass on the mic to you.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks very much for hosting me, and hi to everyone. Let me just make sure that works. I'm starting the video, and I'm also sharing my screen. Tony, can everyone see my screen? Tony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can see your screen. Can you hear me?
Fine. Yes, that's fine. Perfect. All right. So thanks again for hosting me. I wanted to go through a quick presentation. I've got a dozen slides which I prepared for this presentation. So hopefully we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes to go through that. So first, what is the off-grid market in Africa? So as Tony was pointing out, there's 1 billion people in Africa. About 600 million people in Africa don't have access to electricity, so that's about 48%. Now the African population is growing about 3% a year. It looks like it's going to double in size by 2050, and it's going to reach 2.4 billion people. So mechanically, the electrification rate will actually decrease in Africa, which is very bad and sad news. And if we look at the cost of electrification rate in Africa, it's amongst the most expensive in the world. There's a significant energy gap currently being created between the urban residents who in Africa most of them have access to electricity. That's about 64%, while it's only 14% of the rural population in Africa have got access to electricity. So that's a very important disparity, and that's something that we need to do. We need to solve hopefully in the next few years. economic analysis has also shown that Africa is losing 2 to 4 GDP growth points per year because of power shortages, which is really bad news. So if we now look at what is currently, or in the last 30 years, what's been used is really the regular grid, and this solution has got roughly a first year cost of somewhere between $600 to $1,500. Now, a typical connection cost in sub-Saharan Africa would range between $400 to $1,200 per month, which is actually quite expensive. The other solution, the off-grid solution, would provide electricity to a rural household for about $140 the first year, and somewhere between somewhere between $120 as an annual cost after following the first year. So clearly, there's a big difference in terms of accessibility and affordability for the people in the rural areas between the off-grid sector and the on-grid sector. Now, looking at the off-grid sectors, off-grid investments in the last few years, it's clear that there has been quite a big change. If you look at the direct investments between 2017 to 2018, the sector has actually grown by about 22%. If you look at the cumulative investments in the off-grid sector, it was about $1.7 billion in 2018, which is starting to be a big number. And the number of deal counts grew nearly 80% in 2017 versus 2016. So that's actually a big jump. And we see more and more investors looking at the sector. And of course, as the CFO of Bbox, I can definitely say that the nature and the type of investors interested in our sector has definitely changed. We are attracting more and more sophisticated investors. I'll actually touch upon that in the next few slides. Now, in terms of the impact of the off-grid sector, it's actually quite powerful. Typically, people in rural areas don't have access to electricity, right? So they can only use candles or kerosene lamps, which is not very convenient for them. The first step would be to have access to a low level of energy, such as the Pico solar lanterns, so 1 lantern, 2 lanterns. The next step would then be to bring them to something a bit more sophisticated, which is typically a solar installation for domestic use with radios, fans, televisions, fridges. The next step would be for them to be connected to a mini grid where they have, typically the capacity would be much higher. And then the fifth step would be, of course, to have a very high capacity solution with a hybrid solution between solar and diesel for very large domestic users. And we are observing more and more interest in the mini grid sector as well. So what Bbox wants to do here is help those populations move up the energy ladder. For us, it's not just about providing 1 or 2 lamps as an access to our customer. It's really to help them move up the ladder and provide them the on-grid experience, even though they are part of the off-grid populations. So in terms of impact, one has to also take into account the economic activity. The energy sector, or the off-grid energy sector, can unleash productive users in the following way. First, by having access to electricity, population can do many different things. For instance, farmers will be able to actually run cleaner irrigation systems, and they can start the machines can start processing and improve the yields that the farmers are working in. They can also refrigerate the harvest and then limit the loss due to the rotting. Farmers who are the bulk of our customers in rural areas can then increase their income by somewhere between 30 to 40%, according to some economic studies. And by having a higher income, they could invest and they can invest in education and health. Of course, by investing in education and health, that can help create new jobs, educate the population, and accelerate the growth and life improvement of the population. Now, this slide is about Bbox and the strategy that Bbox is taking to answer the issue, which is to electrify rural populations or off-grid populations in Africa. We think we have a scalable model because our central platform is actually serving a next generation utility. We currently have, as of today, different businesses, all embedded into one. So we have a central platform to distribute various goods and services, whether it's the conception and the design of the hardware, which, for instance, takes place in London, where the company is based. We also have, so that's about 50 engineers who are based in London who work on that. We also have a team in China who are in charge of the sourcing and the production of the equipment. We have another team in London looking after the software. So we have developed our own platform called Pulse, and Pulse, I'll discuss that later on, is a centralized platform which really helps and supports the distribution energy that we offer where we operate in Africa. We offer other services in the platform, which I will touch upon a bit later, and we also finance our customers. Typically, our customers can't afford paying upfront the equipment, so we have to lease the equipment with the accessories over a 3-year payment plan, and that's almost a business in itself. Now, when we started in Africa, we started with Kenya and Rwanda, and very quickly we realized that our sector is very capitalistic and requires large sums of money. So we decided to disaggregate the B2B, which is the first part of the business, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, from the B2C, which is operating directly in the African countries, whether it's in Kenya, in Rwanda. We also have operations in DRC and in Togo. Now, by making a distinction between those two different businesses, we can also attract different kinds of investors. So I'll share that with you in a few minutes. But some investors might be only interested in our technology, in the Pulse platform. Some other investors might be more interested in taking the exposure of our B2C customers. So that's very important to segregate the different risks, so we attract the capital required to grow the operations. Now, when we look at what we have done in the last couple of years, as I said, on the left-hand side, you have the 4 countries where we operate. So Togo, for instance, you have 5 million people off-grid. We currently have about 19,000 customers. Kenya, you have 35 million people off-grid. We currently have 52,000 customers. In Rwanda, 7 million people off-grid. We have 56,000 customers. And in the DRC, you have 62 million people off-grid with 5,000 customers. So the first thing to bear in mind is there's still too many people off-grid, which is a big problem. For Bbox, of course, what is interesting is there's a big potential of market, but the cost to serve all those customers, or the funding requirements to serve all those customers, is very high. So we have to attract investors who can really help us grow the business and roll out our business plan in those countries. So we have currently attracted blue chip names. We have, for instance, attracted NG, who participated in our Series C round in 2016. We have attracted a very well-known fund called Bamboo Capital, also in our Series B round in 2015. And more recently, we did a few things. First, we decided to open the capital to EDF, the French utility, who took a 50% stake in Togo, which you can see in Western Africa. And we did something similar with AIM, so African Infrastructure Investment Managers, who's the first or the largest infrastructure fund in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, with those two investors, we have invested more equity into those markets, which has allowed us to raise more debt and also support the expansion of those different markets. More recently, we closed our Series D, so that's our fourth round of funding with Mitsubishi Corporation, which is, as you know, a large Japanese conglomerate. So I think a key aspect to answer the question, has the revolution started, which is one of the topics that of the webinar, is what has driven this increase in the this development change in the energy sector, and why is off-grid picking up? And just to be very clear, I'm not saying that off-grid is the only solution to electrify Africa. I'm just saying that it's part of the solution. And specifically in rural areas, I think it makes a lot of sense to use off-grid. It makes much less sense to use the traditional or historical solutions that, if you look at the last 30 to 40 years, have clearly not worked. So why is off-grid so interesting? The first factor which has definitely changed the dynamic is the cost of the solar panels. They have decreased by close to 100% in the last 30 to 40 years, which of course has increased the interest in the sector. The second driver has been the cost of the LED lamps. If you look at 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have LED lamps. Now we have LED light bulbs, which last longer. They have actually a higher output and they're more energy efficient. The third improvement has been the battery. The battery, has definitely changed the dynamic. Now you have the solar panel, which helps produce electricity out of the solar radiations, and you can store actually this electricity thanks to the batteries. Now, in terms of cost reduction, it has been quite significant in the last 10 years. And energy storage, or the battery, is one of the key components of the system. There has been also quite a favorable environment. In some cases, one can only praise what the governments are doing. They don't always do bad things, government. In the case of Togo, they created quite a favorable environment, and they have actually provided the right incentives for solar home companies to operate in. Bbox won actually a tender in 2017, part of the CISO program. And we started operating at the end of 2017, so just a few months after we first visited the country. Now we are in September, so almost 2 years later. 2 years later, sorry, we have already close to 20,000 customers. So it's quite impressive, and I have to say that by creating this favorable environment, the governments are attracting private capital. Now, the fifth driver is actually the Internet of Things, which allows remote control of any system in the world. It allows Bbox to collect a lot of user data. It facilitates the payments and provides a personalized support. So this is what typically Pulse, our technological platform, does. It really helps us manage our operations, in all our different markets. We currently have close to 150,000 customers across those markets. And when you operate in a decentralized distribution network, all your problems, all your issues are distributed. And if you have a problem, if tomorrow all our batteries were to stop working, it would be, we wouldn't be able to operate. So only by using Pulse, which helps us to predict when problems are going to happen. And by anticipating when the issues will arise, we can become more efficient, we can plan in advance, and we can proactively solve those issues rather than being confronted to reactive solutions. The sixth and last factor is, of course, mobile money. Mobile money is now picking up quite dramatically across Africa. As you know, it started in Kenya with M-Pesa. It has really helped, by using mobile phone, first by having mobile phones, and second by using mobile money, it has really helped the sector, largely in rural areas where, of course, most of the population don't have a bank account, and paying by cash is not very efficient, and it's a bit too complicated. So mobile money rollout is definitely one of the key contributors to our sector. So if you look at the B-Box, in 2010, I just want to summarize how in the last almost 10 years now, we have had quite an impressive growth. The company was created back in 2010 by 3 engineers in London. We started penetrating 2 markets in East Africa, Rwanda and Kenya, mostly due to the mobile money. In 2014, we had sold about 4,000 units, and we had our first smart product, which we could remotely control, and we could monitor capabilities suitable for the pay-as-you-go business, which is very important. In 2016, we had doubled in terms of size of the portfolio to 8,000 units sold, and we could fully remotely monitor our equipment across those 2 markets. In 2017, as I said, we won the CISO program in Togo, and we had this was the first PPP, so public-private partnership in the off-grid sector. We launched also DRC and Pakistan. We reached 20,000 customers, so that was more than double the size of the portfolio in 2016. And in 2018, so last year, we reached 45,000 units sold, so more than double the size of 2017. And we finalized a distribution agreement with Orange, where we sell in DRC, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Mali, and Guinea. We also created some partnerships with GE, with NG, and EDF. In 2019, we will probably hit over 200,000 units sold. So you can clearly see the growth, the exponential growth in the last few years. That's it for me. Thank you very much. And of course, I'm happy to take questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Thomas. So I think I have Nate online. Nate, are you online? I think you online. So is your microphone working? So let me just see if I can help you there. Nate, can you hear me? Let me see if I can unmute. Hello, Nate, can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. That's excellent. Great.
Okay.
So I think you have a small presentation as well to share. So if that's the case, if you want to let me know, I'm just going to stop sharing. And then if you can show your screen. So you want to go into the green command button at the bottom and click on it.
I don't. Okay, here we go.
If you see that, you click on share and we should be able to see your screen.
Okay, 1 second here.
Can you see that? While you're sorting that out, just for me to say that, to thank everybody for their attendance today. We had a fantastic we're having a fantastic attendance, and overall, we had close to 80 people that registered for this webinar, and people were coming from a very good contingent from Africa, Europe, and Asia, and primarily from the energy industry. We also have financial services, and we had some donors organizations. So thank you for that. And in terms of the representation of the roles, we have a number of senior executives and decision makers, which means that it is very good to know. So people want to get the insights, and that's what we're here for, Renewables in Africa, to facilitate that for you. So making sure that we can bring interesting people like Thomas, and obviously as well Nate. I think Nate, now you're all ready, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so in that case, I'm just gonna go on mute, and the floor is all yours.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this call. My name is Nadia Udofia. My friends will call me Nate Udofia. Yes, I represent the global outreach of His Imperial Majesty, the Uni of Ife. I am the National Executive Director for the USA for the Uni of Ife Global Outreach. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning, and I welcome the opportunity to collaborate with the participants this morning. Today, I am going to really talk about off-grid solar in the context of agriculture, a sector of tremendous importance on the African continent. We at Uni of Ife Global Outreach have started the Royal African Farm. It is a collaborative network meant to give small-scale and commercial farmers the opportunity to participate in a global collaborative network that will build resilience. Agriculture, as the Uni of Ife states, is the staple toward poverty alleviation across the continent of Africa. And what we want to go through is the off-grid energy capacity that is brought to the table relating to off-grid systems for agriculture. We are bringing and coining a new opportunity relating to what we call agrivoltaic systems. That is the combination of solar farms and solar thermal to produce electricity and to increase the capacity of agricultural farmers in terms of off-grid production. Tony, if you could take this for a minute. Tony, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, Tony? Yes, Nate. Yes, I can.
Okay. I have to make a quick edit. If you could, on the screen, if you could scroll down for me, it's not working. Hold on, please.
It does not work. So can you scroll down or not? If not, I think I have it on my. You send that to me as well. So let me look for that. I think Nate, if you can start explaining the initiative, and then I will find it for you.
Excuse me, Tony?
Yeah, I was saying if you can carry on explaining that, I will find it for you. And then
okay, wonderful. Okay,
so
what I will do is I will continue the presentation and excuse the participants.
Okay.
The first slide is how do we move towards the optimization of land use with agrivoltaic systems, right? And the theme is that we have to evaluate the plant response to the modified microclimates created by simulated ground agrivoltaic systems. Across Africa, we have a climate that
Nate, can you see my screen? If yes, maybe you can use that as you speak.
I can't.
Okay, no problem. So go ahead, yeah.
All right. Right. So we have in Africa a growing population that requires more energy and food. Over the next 30 years, the population is set to grow to over 2.4 billion people. So the immediate question is, with the growing population and the growing food demand, how do we feed our people? How do we meet the increasing growing energy demand? And how do we take advantage of the arable land? One of the assets that Africa brings to the table relating to energy systems and agriculture is that we have arable land that yet has been productive. So with the African growing population, it requires more energy and food. According to the UN revision of the world population prospects, 9.3 billion people are projected to inhabit the planet by 2050, which means over a third of the current population will have a global energy consumption which is set to rise by 53% over the next 15 years. In addition, according to the FAO, food production must double by 2050 to meet the demand of the world's growing population and also meet the increased consumption of luxury food items by this population. So in a land-limited population, Tony, if you have the next slide, competition for arable land, food production, energy production are the issues that will drive Africa energy and food production. So the food production is one area of off-grid energy that we need to look at because of the severe focus on agriculture for poverty alleviation. So in terms of energy production, biomass is a possible substitute to fossil fuel. To replace fossil fuel, biomass will require a land area that would exceed the crop area of the planet. So that's a challenge. We have to be able to drive trade around our agricultural markets, and the use of biomass to create energy is one of the main mechanisms to do that. Hello?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So next slide is in a
I'm on agroforestry. Is that where I should be, Nate? If not, if yes, carry on.
Yes. Agroforestry is one of the areas around where we can build some definite opportunities in terms of land use. There's a large deforestation effort across multiple countries in Africa. So agroforestry covers land use systems in which trees and shrubs are grown in association with herbaceous crops, either in a spatial arrangement or in a rotation, okay? So the opportunity for development exists, one, with a diversification of agricultural production, energy production by biomass, and industry rather than on food. Okay. Number two, the combination of agricultural crops with trees for fuel wood production can bring a higher profit than pure plantings of either. Number three, the source of energetic self-supply in rural areas, meaning that local people could take advantage of local resources, sun, wind, water, and waste, to empower themselves. Okay, next slide, Tony.
Okay. So, and by the way, for the people on the phone, so I've been trying to expand my presentation from the email. It doesn't work very well, so I'd rather just keep it like that. At least we can follow. Carry on. We on agrivoltaic system.
Yes, the agrivoltaic systems, they come in several forms, right? You have because of the climate across most of Africa, which is tree friendly, rooftop solar does not really give you the yields in terms of energy. So from an off-grid perspective, we're taking a look at land use opportunities, ground-mounted solar systems, even of the photovoltaic variety or of the solar thermal variety. And the solar thermal variety actually brings us into the area of off-grid energy boxes, similar to the B-box scenario. Our philosophy as it relates to Royal African energy, specifically the agrivoltaic systems, is that we need to produce modular systems. Modular systems that produce electricity, that produce clean, filtrated water, and also have the capacity to provide internet access. So in and of itself, we are generating three economic streams from the sale of electricity and storage, which will enable a lot of different avenues, and it also will provide resiliency in terms of energy systems. And then from the water, clean water remains something that affects the mortality rates across all of Africa. The disease burden that is associated with water is most African countries still have a mortality rate under 50 years old. So the modular approach of being able to fit to size the technology and provide revenue streams with the off-grid energy solutions is ultimately the way forward. Because of the inefficiencies of the traditional grid system, we have up to 70% loss between transmission distribution before it gets to the light bulb inside a community. So the rural electrification mandate actually is prohibitive as it relates to transmission lines and the loss and the reliability and the security and the environmentally friendly or the clean energy aspects of off-grid nanogrid systems is the core gist of what we want to drive across the rural African landscape, and then also provide modular systems that meet the needs of schools, churches, small businesses, small enterprises, and also medium businesses and entities. With that, I think my presentation is complete, and I will take questions.
Okay, I think that's fine, Nate. We'll try and go back to the slide that I'm sharing here. That's fine. Okay, so I think I had one question which came out, and basically somebody was asking me, we are a service provider, and how can we find deals on the sector? Because we're saying that there is a revolution. So if I can respond to that, just take the example of what renewables in Africa we tend to do. So 1 second. I think you can still see my screen, right? So hopefully, yes. If not, let me just share that. Okay. So, and that's 1 second. Okay, great. So this is we're looking for deals using the platform of our partners, which is called Deep Blue, that you may or may not know. And for the off-grid opportunities, whenever we work with our clients, just give you an example. So we will go on the platform Deep Blue, and then I think it's loading at the moment. So this is my profile. So usually what I do, I will set up the platform so that we have some keywords that we've listed here. And once I have those keywords, so in the system, so I want to launch, I want to start look for opportunity that could be suitable for one of the clients that we're working with. So when we are in the system, going into the business, what we will do, oh, 1 second, I think, just say, can you see, I think you can see my screen, hopefully, yes. 1 second.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so, can you see my screen? Nate, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, do you see Deep Blue, or you can see only the slide?
Deep blue, I see.
Okay,
I see,
that's fine.
and the messages, yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So I was just explaining that what we do usually, we will use the CPV messages to search for opportunities in here. So when we click on that, I've pre-selected that just to show the demonstration. So we select the off-grid opportunities. You can even streamline it, go to the area that are of interest for you. I had, for example, here Eastern Southern Africa. And then when you do the search, you can see you have 86 opportunity, and all of them are listed there. If I click on one, for example, which is, by the way, one live opportunity, and that's one of the things personally we like with Deep Blue, is the fact that with those keywords, you are able to basically streamline and shortlist opportunities that are of interest for you. And the key thing for me personally that I like, it's this part where you can see the whole ecosystem, and you see other companies that are active are into the system, and you can potentially even contact them. So this is roughly how the Deep Blue website work, and how we personally doing to find opportunity in off-grid, which I know are not that easy to do. So with that, let me just go back to the to our presentation, because I believe there's a lot of questions for our speakers. So, and then I'm gonna ask the first question.
Hey, Tony?
Yes, Nick.
If I may, I'm able to find the slide. So if I could take a couple minutes, right, to talk about the agrivoltaic system slide that you had up.
Okay, you can do that. So we will need to be very brief, because I think we only have 8 minutes left, and I just want to make sure that I can take a couple of questions. But I can give you that for a few minutes. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to go over the one slide for the people in terms of describing the agrivoltaic system, a double cropping system.
Can you share your screen now, Nate? I can't see that.
Actually, let me just go ahead and see if there's some questions.
Yeah. I think if you can see, Nate, I think what we're gonna do, and also for everybody benefit, we're gonna be sharing the slide presentation to all the people that attended, and also the recording will be available, so they will be able to see that as well. So if that can reassure
Wonderful.
you, yeah. Okay, that's great. So the first question that's going for you, Thomas, because I know you're going to be running up very shortly, like all of us. So person was asking, what are the best financing model and structure that will make rural communities afford paying? I'm sure you already touched on that into your presentation, but if you have a very short and sweet answer about it.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Tony, please?
Sure. What are the best financing models and structures that will make rural communities afford paying?
Okay, so it really depends on the maturity of the business or that you have. For instance, if I take typically when we launch a new market, we don't have too many solutions. We can only put equity. As the company grows, you can start. It's very difficult to raise some debt when you don't have yet too much track record in a country. Especially if this is a country with a high perceived risk. You don't have too many lenders who will knock on your door and lend to you. So in those kind of situations, we tend to favor crowdfunding. So we have actually successfully raised close to $10 million through Trine, which is a Swedish crowdfunding platform, through Lenderhand, another UK crowdfunding platform. And then as the business matures, we tend to move towards the kind of, the GFI, so the development financial institutions, and then the typical local commercial banks, which at this stage, at this moment in time, would be a bit more reassured with the market and would be willing to lend to the company. So that's typically how we do it. Tony, I think you're still on mute.
Okay, I think now,
yes.
I was just saying, thank you for that. So you can listen to me now, I think. Okay, so the question for you, Nate, and the question is, I think the person is interested by the concept that you have described, and they wanted to know whether there is a live example that you currently have running under the Union of IFE Global Outreach, or there is an example that is close to be piloted.
Yes. Thank you for the question. And let me just also speak to the issue of financing for a minute. What we have done is really looked at cooperative or community solar for off-grid. In the United States, rural electrification was really brought together by commercial farmers who needed access to electricity. And the concept of putting together cooperatives or community-based solar programs is one of the mechanisms that we are leveraging with Royal African Energy. And in terms of practical, we are working in Enugu State, Nigeria, with the Ugoze Farmers Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society to build a community solar program leveraging the members of that cooperative. So giving existing agricultural producers the opportunity to get another stream of revenue, reduce their electricity load based mostly on diesel use and generator use, provide more operational efficiency, in terms of increasing the yields of the plants on the farm, and even if we provide clean water, the health of the livestock and the fisheries on a particular farm. So we are looking to collaborate with organizations that can really start to mark the agrivoltaic marketplace, right? So we're trying to really introduce something that is environmentally friendly, economically efficient, operationally optimized, and then from a social responsibility perspective, right? This is an area for jobs, training existing farmers and other people in other sectors, right? To take advantage of the focus on agriculture in particular in most African countries.
Okay, thanks for that. So I'm just going to be asking just one last word for Thomas, because I know you got to go now. So basically, how much money WiBA is aiming to raise overall? And that's one question. And for you, Nate, so how much youth is important into your plan? So Thomas, I think you have one last word, and I think you have to go after that.
So how much money we are aiming to raise? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's quite simple. Our mission and our CEO's vision is to really electrify off-grid populations in Africa and also around the world, so in South America, or Latin America, and Asia. So it's a very difficult question to answer, but as much money as it takes to electrify those rural populations, so it's a lot of money. We're talking about billions of dollars. As I explained previously, the way to do it is to disaggregate the B2B segment from the B2C and create partnerships with blue chip companies who have the same goals. But yeah, in terms of amount, we're talking about billions of dollars.
Okay, that's fine. So Nate, youth, just one word. How important is it for you, for your plan?
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
The place of youth in your plan.
So okay.
How important
it is of utmost importance. Africa as a whole is a very young population, and with the anticipated growth in the population, it will be in young people. Nigeria alone is currently 200 million population. By 2040, the projections are it will be 400 million and the third largest country in the world. So if we don't address providing our youth the appropriate skills to be able to survive in a mobile, a digital, an internet-based society, then we will have conflict across the continent. And you're seeing signs of that right now across the continent. So His Imperial Majesty, the Uni of Ife, with a global following of over 500 million people, has put all of his capital around youth development, identifying youth leaders, empowering those leaders, giving them the support systems so they can start their own businesses and really start to address the issues across the continent, right, will be solved by the youth. The Uni of Ife often says, no revolution was started by old men.
I think
so.
Yeah, finish first.
Yes.
We just about to wrap it up.
Okay, so the importance of getting the youth engaged in rural electrification and electrification across even urban areas is tantamount to Africa's advancement.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and thank you for sharing the vision of the Uni of Ife. And then I have to say to all the people joining here as well that we've also been approached and asked to join the advisory board for the Union of IFE Global Outreach, and it was a pleasure for us to do that. And as a matter of fact, we have become the official media partner with regard to the promotion of the renewables energy, so working in collaboration with His Imperial Majesty. So all I have to say, it was a great avenue today. So one last thing I have, it's for you to share the small poll that we have, because that's allowing us to see how much we actually meeting your expectations. So how much we need to improve. So if you can complete that, we have 30 seconds, and after that, we should be all gone. So we'll leave another 15 seconds for people to complete the poll. Or to say that our next webinar will be in a month's time, if not a little bit before, and we're going to be talking about still interesting topic regarding either the technology or the renewables energy. And we're going to be bringing forward exciting speakers. So Nate and Thomas were part of them. And we're hoping to see you very shortly. We definitely will be sharing slide presentations for everybody. And the recording as well will be ready in a few days. So no more than a week. So all that is left for me to say is that it was a pleasure talking to you today, and then I wish you a fantastic rest of the day, and hoping to see you in a month's time, if not before. So thank you very much, and then keep following renewables in Africa. And remember, the mission that we have is to bring back power to Africa. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.